I think this is actually quite helpful for us to do this, because this way you're kind of understanding that you can move, right? You do have the ability to move in both directions. It's just your normal intent is whenever you say, I'm gonna move down, but I'm actually gonna move up. And when I'm gonna move up, I'm gonna move down. But let's look quickly at the data and see where we're operating right now. So let's see here. And so, Kyla, let's go ahead and actually, we can just do an assessment really quickly to check if you'd like. That may be a good avenue.
Should I be, like, sometimes depending on the tone, I hold my forearm down with my right hand?
That's fine.
That's okay.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Again, ultimately, we want to kind of remove as many sort of assistance mechanisms as possible. But for the time being, especially if you're very effortful and it's coming across the midline for you, if you need to brace it a little bit with that right arm, that's okay. That can be helpful. So let me just make sure we're getting data here. I'm just going to send a quick command on my side to make sure that we are communicating. Very good. Perfect. Now, Catherine, what I'd like to do is I'd like you to actually, well, the one problem with bracing is it actually prevents us from doing that sort of bimanual, that mirroring approach that I was talking to Aretha about. So, but what we can do is we can actually have you, in this case, have your hand kind of up, and you can kind of brace with your sort of palm, and then you can move up with your wrist. So we can kind of do a bit of jiggery pokery, as they may say, and kind of get our way, figure out a way to do that.
Okay.
But first things first, let's go ahead and figure out what kind of range of motion we have. Oh, by Catherine, who is that with you right there? Is that your little one?
Sorry, yeah, I have a three-year-old.
Sure. No. What's your all are welcome on Rehab Power Hour. So if they would like to come in and hang out, that's fine. It's not going to be a problem for me.
Okay,
so,
I have caregiver, yeah. So
okay, great, that's fine. Well, Catherine, let's go ahead and do the range of motion then. So let's go ahead and have you try to move up as far as you can for me. Okay. So this is interesting. You're getting that reciprocal movements, right? So we'll go ahead and talk through it in a second, but go ahead and relax for me. I'm going to have you try to move down as far as you can into flexion. Interesting. Very good. Okay. So let's go have you relax. Let's have you try to move down again as far as you can for me.
I don't feel like my flexion ever does anything.
Yeah, well, Catherine, it's really interesting. So if you're looking at the data on the screen, whenever you move down into flexion, those numbers are going to become more and more negative. Whenever you move up into extension, whenever you cross 0, which is kind of neutral, that's going to be extension.
Okay.
So let's try to do it one more time. Give me just a second here. Let's go ahead and have you try to move up into extension. So try to move up as far as you can. So whenever you're moving up into extension, you're actually going down into flexion. You see that?
Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. This is good to know. And so then go ahead and try your best to go up into extension as far as you can for me. Go up as far as you can. Yeah, interesting. So they were honestly going in opposite directions. This is one of these things that after neurologic injury, our intentions are mismatched, right? Because you're intending to move one direction, and because the circuits that normally control that are different because there's some damage. Those circuits are doing something that they're not intended to do. This is the importance of that biofeedback, because those numbers are telling you, hey, I'm intending to move down. I'm trying my best to move down, but you're actually moving up. And vice versa. When you're trying to move up, you're actually moving down. And so this is why it's so important to really look at those data, look at those images and follow them, because that's going to help you learn that, hey, maybe that network of neurons I normally recruit for going up, actually I need to reorient that in my brain to think, okay, if I'm trying to move up, I'm actually moving down. If I'm trying to move down, I'm actually moving up. And this is the process of relearning how to use our limbs again. It's a bit wonky though, right? It's a bit challenging.
It explains why I'm not doing as well as I like in the games. Yeah,
and I think insight is very, very helpful. Right, this part of this process is also to learn, and so I think that's really good that we experience this together. So next thing, let's go ahead and actually try to do a bit of a passive range of motion check. So I'm just going to move your hand and wrist. So just do your best to relax here. And just let me know as soon as you feel any movement in your hand, okay?
Yeah, a tiny bit.
Tiny bit, okay, very good.
Or no, I can hear it, but oh, there we go.
Yeah, perfect, okay. Yeah, that it is kind of a cheat because you can hear it move you, but it doesn't always move you every time it pumps. But now let me know as soon as you feel a kind of a stretch, but we're just going to be walking through kind of a passive range that a therapist would do in person. This is just going to help me figure out where your upper limits of movement are. So let me know if at any point it becomes kind of a strong stretch or uncomfortable. It shouldn't be painful,
No,
but we want to see.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
But not at all uncomfortable.
Very good. Okay. Perfect. We'll keep going up here.
Sorry, I just want to ask because I'll probably forget.
Sure.
Is that like confusion of my brain sending the signal of flexion and extension? Is that like linked to the effort thing? Do you think? Because I feel like I'm just trying so hard that for like anything, that maybe, I don't know, if I try like just what you're talking about, like to isolate, that maybe it would listen better.
Yes, I think very much so. And so one of the things that I want to bring up is it's very common to see that issue where you're trying to move up into extension and you actually move down. That's exceptionally common. And that is tied very much to that effort. What's happening is those networks of neurons are damaged. And what you're trying to do is you're just trying to recruit everything you can, right? It's like, brain, do anything you can to move my arm. That's really what you're trying to do. And what happens there is because the biomechanics of our flexion systems are stronger, they just dominate, okay? And so you get that flexion pattern to kick back in, and it causes your arm to move in that opposite direction as opposed to your intent. It's much less common to have the thing we saw just a second ago about when you're trying to move down and you try to move up, and you actually move up. That's a bit less common, I would say. But that could also be tied to the effort. I feel like that's probably not what's driving that. I think that's most likely a function of, you might have been doing a bunch of rehab and you might have already reestablished some networks of neurons that are doing things, and they're just mapped to different patterns effectively. And we just need to relearn how to map them onto the correct movement that you're intending to do. It's almost like if you were to, let me see, if you're intending to walk forward and every time you did that, you actually just walk backwards a step, right? It's kind of that idea. We need to just, okay, well, whatever you did to walk backwards or walk forward, if you ever want to walk backwards, you just do that instead. But that process requires you to have insight into whether or not you're doing the thing you want to do or not, right? That's why biofeedback is so incredibly important. So let's go ahead and do this really quickly. Let's go ahead and have you, again, try to move down as far as you can. We're doing this again, just to kind of check. Very good. So that time we're actually moving down, right? That's good. And so we'll stop there for a second. Just relax for me, take a big breath in. Now, I'd like you to actually close your eyes really quickly. And I'd like you to try to move up as far as you can for me. Perfect. Yep. Now go ahead and open your eyes and look at where your numbers are, right? So that's very, very common where it went down. Very, very common. Now I'm going to have you close your eyes again. I'm going to have you close your eyes, take a big breath in, and then go ahead and try to move down as far as you can. Open your eyes.
Oh,
it moved up, right? So you do, Catherine, you do have the ability to move up, right? It's just now we have to get the map onto the correct direction. So one thing we can do here is we can actually provide a little bit of assistance. Let's see what happens if those things change, if we have some forces there to help provide some feedback. Okay, so let's try this. Now, let's try to move up into extension as far as you can. Just do it gently, but try to move up as far as you can. Very good. So you see on the screen 24, try to make that go higher. Try to keep it go to 24 and a half. Try to go to 25 if you can. Really good. And relax. Okay, good. Now try to move up again. So watch the screen and try to make that number go up as far as you can. Whatever you're doing, try to make it go up as far as you can. Good, good. Can you go to 27? There you go, good. So this is the process that has to happen, right? You have to get that feedback. You have to just drive the neurons, but while you're doing the right thing. Whenever you're intending to move up, you have to make sure that you're mapping that onto the correct visual stimulus with whatever you're intending. So really, really, I think this is actually quite helpful for us to do this, because this way you're kind of understanding that you can move, right? You do have the ability to move in both directions. It's just your normal intent is whenever you say, I'm gonna move down, but I'm actually gonna move up. And when I'm gonna move up, I'm gonna move down. So this is very good, I'd say. I'm
sorry to interrupt.
Go for it.
I think it's just because I've neglected it for a few years. I have an easier time when I close my eyes trying to imagine it. But I would imagine neurologically it's more helpful to look at it. Do I have to? Not have to, but should I be looking at it? Is it better to go lower, or to do worse, or close your eyes and do better?
Sure. So I think, Catherine, the process of closing your eyes is interesting, and it's good to kind of test certain things. But fundamentally, if we want you to learn to map your intentions onto the correct movements again, we have to have feedback. Your brain has to have feedback about whether or not the consequence of those activation of those neurons is correct or not. Right. And to do that, we need to have that visual information that's being presented, right? Because as soon as we turned on your visual systems there and you were looking at the data, you're able to move up more into extension, right? Okay. So when we have that visual feedback, we're able to use that to check whether or not the thing we're doing is correct. Yeah. Okay. Because imagine this, right? If I'm trying to pick up this can of soda and I don't have visual information, I'm trying to learn to pick this up for the very first time. If I'm just closing my eyes, I have no information about whether or not I'm reaching for the correct or where I am in space. But if I have visual information about where my hand is with respect to the can, I can go, oh, I overshot it to the right, or hey, I overshot it to the left, or hey, I'm right on it, but I may be a little bit low, right? That visual feedback will help you kind of reorient, rescale those intentions that you have.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
So I'd very much encourage you to use your vision to help with that learning process. Okay, and what other questions do you have for me?
Sorry, a bunch. So is it more helpful then to look at the numbers, or the arrows in the games going up or down, or to look at the machine?
Yes, I think both can be helpful. I think the screen is going to give you much higher fidelity information, meaning it's going to be able to discriminate very fine degrees of movement for you. And for instance, in the strongman exercises, that blue bar that's on the right-hand side, it shows completion. That's going to move with fine degrees of control. That's going to be different than what you may be able to see with your own hand. And so I would say early on, let's focus on the screen and make sure that either the avatar, whether you're playing the strongman or if you're watching in cosmic tennis, the bar moving up and down, those things are directly related to you. So those things are one and the same. It's just whether or not 1 degree or a sub-degree of movement here if your own hand looks like a large movement on the screen. It's going to be much easier to see the consequence of your movement there. So I would say probably to start with, let's look at the screen.
Okay, yep.
Okay. But let's go ahead and do this actually, Catherine. I would very much like you to go into your activities really quickly. And we can actually go through, let's see here. So I'd like you to hit the back button and go ahead and hit home. And I'd like you to actually start playing some of those exercises. And then I can watch some of the data come in and we can make sure that it's working for you. And while we do this, I'm actually going to go over to my next guest with Renee. And but what I'll do is I'll come back around and then we'll just make sure that those data are working. If you do see the screen pause, don't worry, that's just me. But go ahead and hit play here and we'll just do our first session together, first rep here. So here, this one is trying to really move up into extension as far as you can. Oh, great. So we already have way too much. That's good. It's going to pause again. And that's just me. Go ahead and hit play. Perfect. And still, you have a lot of good movement there. So that's good. Let's just reduce this slightly. Okay, one more time. Go ahead and hit play. Great. Good. Okay. And actually, what I want you to do is go ahead and hit the, after this next repetition, go ahead and hit the skip button. Good. Very good. Okay, good. So go ahead and pause the screen and skip. So Catherine, let me know how things are going there. I'm watching the data. It looks pretty good on my end. Any differences you're noticing there?
I feel like there's more of a correspondence between like me and the screen. Like I'm trying and I'm getting better results. If that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah, that I could not have hoped for a better outcome. Right. I mean, that's good. So I think we're good with that. But what we can do is let's schedule a time for a week or so. Like I said, we'll have you back on, and then we'll make sure that progress is still happening. We can make more modifications. Okay.
Okay. So I'm sorry. We booked that through in the same way that this was booked.
Exactly. Yep. There will be a team member that will reach out to you, and we'll get that scheduled.
Awesome.
Okay. Great.
Helpful. Thank you.
Of course, Catherine. Yeah.